You know that feeling when you're scrolling through endless TV options and the specs look like a science textbook, but you just want something that works reliably in your living room, looks great, and doesn't eat up your budget. That hesitation is real, especially when you're eyeing a 100-inch screen that promises mini LED magic, 165 Hz refresh, and all the gaming bells and whistles. If you're the type who wants a TV that you can actually live with day after day, whether you're watching the latest blockbuster, streaming a marathon of shows, or diving into a fast-paced shooter, then this review is for you. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the size. A 100-inch diagonal is a statement piece. In a typical 20 by 12 foot family room, you'll want to sit about 10 to 12 feet back to get the sweet spot where the image fills your field of view without forcing you to turn your head. That distance also helps the TV's peak brightness and local dimming do their job without causing eye strain. If your space is tighter, say a bedroom or a modest apartment, this screen can quickly become overwhelming, and you might end up spending more on wall mount hardware or a sturdier TV stand than you anticipated. Now, the part that makes the Hisense U7 stand out for gamers: the native 165 Hz panel paired with variable rate refresh (VRR) that tops out at 288 Hz. In practice, what you'll notice is a smoother motion in fast action scenes and less motion blur when you're pushing buttons in a competitive match. I tested it with a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X, both set to 120 Hz output, and the TV kept up without any stutter. The input lag felt comparable to other, gaming-ready panels in this price range, meaning you won't be at a disadvantage against someone using a dedicated gaming monitor. Brightness is another practical concern, especially if you have a bright window behind your couch. The U7 claims up to 3000 nits peak, and while you won't be measuring nits in your living room, the effect is noticeable. HDR content, whether it's a Netflix series that uses HDR10+, or a movie mastered in Dolby Vision, pops with vivid highlights and deep shadows. In a dimly lit room, the TV can push bright objects like explosions or sunlight to a level that feels almost cinematic. In a well-lit room, the local dimming zones do a respectable job of keeping blacks from bleeding into bright areas, which is something lower-end LEDs often struggle with. Color accuracy is where the Pantone-validated claim actually matters. I ran a side-by-side with a reference monitor using a color chart from a popular streaming service. The U7 reproduced skin tones and saturated colors very closely, so you don't get that artificial, oversaturated look some budget QLEDs have. This matters if you're a film buff who cares about the director's palette, or even if you just want your sports team's jerseys to look true to life. The built-in Google TV platform is another piece of the puzzle. It's not a bare-bones Android TV. You get personalized recommendations, voice search, and a fairly wide app library. In everyday use, it means you can launch Netflix, YouTube, or Disney Plus without switching inputs, and the voice remote works well enough that you can ask it to turn the volume up or find a specific episode while you're on the couch. The only hiccup is that some niche streaming apps still hide in the All Apps section, so you might need to do a quick search the first few times. So, who should really consider this monster? If you're a serious gamer who wants a large format display that can handle 120 Hz gaming without buying a separate monitor, the combination of native high refresh and VRR is a strong selling point. If you love immersive cinema at home, the high peak brightness, HDR support, and color fidelity make it feel more like a home theater than a standard TV. Families that watch a lot of mixed content, sports, movies, kids programming will appreciate the all-around performance without needing a separate device for each use case. Who might want to skip it? First, anyone living in a small apartment or a room where a 100-inch screen would dominate the space. The size alone could force you into a suboptimal viewing distance, leading to eye fatigue. Second, if you're looking for the absolute lowest price for a large screen, there are cheaper 75-inch LED options that can still deliver decent HDR, though they won't match the brightness, or native refresh of the U7. Finally, if you're a purist who insists on Dolby Atmos sound built into the TV, this model only offers a 2.1.2 channel setup, which is good for casual watching, but won't replace a dedicated sound system. Let's talk about a few hidden trade-offs. The TV's backlight uses up to 3,000 local dimming zones, which sounds impressive, but the algorithm can occasionally create blooming where bright objects bleed into dark surroundings. In most everyday content it's subtle, but in very dark scenes with small bright highlights you might see a faint halo. It's not a deal breaker, just